Hello Year 6, welcome to your literacy video for Wednesday. So we're still in the book with the train on the front. If you've got this one, I'll go through yours first, and then if you've got the book with the monkey on the front, just like always, I will go through yours after. Now you can see on the board behind me, I've popped a learning question up for you. Our learning question for today is, can I answer questions on a text? And your next page is page 10 in the train book. Okay? So I've popped it under my visualiser for today. We're going to have a look at the text together. I've highlighted a few words in the text, words that I think you might be a little bit unfamiliar with, words that you might not recognise. We're going to have a look at them, go through them, discuss them, and then I'm also going to show you how to use dictionaries to find the meaning if you're not sure. Okay, so let's have a look then. So the introduction then to our text for today. Our text is the Great Fire of London, and it says, on the 2nd of September 1666, a huge fire broke out in central London. The fire burned for 4 days and destroyed thousands of homes. This poem was written by George Surtees. It describes how the Great Fire of London started and how it quickly spread from one building to the next. Okay, let's have a look at this first verse then. Okay, so it says, Thomas Fariner, baker to the king, left his oven burning with the firewood nearby. The embers muttered, the little flames took wing and sang to the bigger flames, come with us and fly. So I there have highlighted embers, okay, because it's not a word we use very often, so you might not be 100% sure. You might already know what it means, and if you do, that's great. But if you're not sure, if we read the full sentence again, so it says, the embers muttered, the little flames took wing. And that's what they are, little flames. So they're not great big flames, they're little small ones. You know, like the little bits that come off a fire? That's what embers are. So fly they did from the baker to the star next door in Fish Street, in one almighty flap. From there on to St. Margaret's, which wasn't very far. The little flames kept hopping from one gap to narrow gap. Here lay the tallow, the spirits and the straw. Here lay the coal and the hemp and the oil. Given a decent breeze, the fire began to draw, and soon barrels full of water were coming to the boil. So here then I've highlighted tallow. What you'll see next to tallow there is a little star. Okay, that little star, that little asterisk, means to look down the bottom where our glossary is. So let's just move it down so we can see where the glossary is. So here it tells us that tallow means animal fat. So we don't need to look that one up. I've just learned that today as well. I didn't know that before this. So yeah, we don't need to look up that one. It's already told us what that one means, because that's quite an old-fashioned word that we wouldn't really use anymore. Okay, let's have a look at the next bit. So how happy were the flames, the gleeful little pests. They sang and crowed and whistled in full throat, flashing now their wings and now their bright red breasts, like robins who had never sung a note. Okay, so I've highlighted gleeful here. Now I know some of you will know what that means, but maybe not all of you. So if you're not sure, then you can go on www.dictionary.com. If you bring up this website, you can just type it into Google. Well, in this top box here, you need to type your word in. So my word is gleeful. Okay, and then you will see it'll come up with a little definition for you. So this one says, full of joy, merry, delighted. So it means happy, really. Yeah? So then that should help us with our understanding. Okay, let's just finish it off then and read the rest. By now their bigger cousins were roosting on the bridge. Old London Bridge was burning and the Thames was molten lead. But the firebirds kept leaping the gap from ridge to ridge till the city blazed from the roof to riverbed. So molten lead means it's really, really hot. Yeah? A bit like lava. Oh, it was spectacular, those flames up to their tricks, and the mess they left behind them was desolate and vague. So it's like it's been abandoned. There's nobody there. There's nothing left. For days they screeched and bellowed in 1666 and wiped away whole districts, but also purged the plague. Now we've got another asterisk there, so go down the bottom and have a look what purged means. Or so they told each other when the squawking had died down, and whether it was accident or fate, they certainly had changed the face of the whole town before they settled back into the grate. Okay, let's have a look at some of your questions then. Okay, just bear with me 1 second. Let me pop that back under there for you. Okay, so the questions then. So question 1 says, in your own words, explain how the Great Fire of London started. So you need to be looking in this very first section. Who started that fire? How did it start? Okay, but it does say in your own words. So that means we don't want you to just copy it. Okay, what started it? You don't need to copy it, have a think and see if you can write it down in your own words. Number 2 says, what does line 12 tell you about the temperature of the fire? Now let's find line 12. So here's line 10, 11, 12. So it's this last line here. So it says, and soon barrels full of water were coming to the boil. So if water is boiling, what does that tell you about the temperature? Is it cold? Is it hot? You have a think. I'm sure you'll know the answer. Number 3 says, find and copy one simile from lines 13 to 16. Now remember, a simile is when you compare two things using like or as. So let's have a look to lines 13 to 16. So make sure you find the right lines. So we've got 10 there, 11, 12, 13. So it's this paragraph here, isn't it? Okay, you have another read through that paragraph and see if you can find the words like or as, but just double check that two things are being compared to each other. Number 4 says, by now their bigger cousins were roosting on the bridge. Line 17, explain what this line means. So go to line 17. Okay, so it's here. By now their bigger cousins were roosting on the bridge. What do you think we're talking about there? So here we're talking about robins. What do you think they might be talking about here, and what do you think they're doing? You have a think about that for that one. Number 5 says the Thames was molten lead. This is an example of A, a simile, B, a metaphor, C, personification, or D, alliteration. Now, A, a simile, we've just gone over a simile, haven't we? That's when we use like or as. The Thames was molten lead. There's no like or as in there, so it can't be a simile. Alliteration is when every word begins with the same letter, like Fantastic Friday. They both begin with F, so that would be alliteration. Okay, so it's not that, is it? Because they don't all begin with the same letter. Personification then is when we say that something that's not alive can do something that a human can do, like the trees were dancing. That would be personification, because trees can't really dance. Okay? So I don't think it's that one. The Thames was molten lead. So I think it's going to be a metaphor. A metaphor is when we say something is something else to help the reader imagine it. So like the sky was a blanket of darkness. It's not really a blanket, is it? We're saying it is so that the reader can imagine what that sky is like. Okay? Number 6 then says, using the information in the poem, write down one negative and one positive consequence of the Great Fire of London. Now, a consequence is when something happens as a result of something else. So, a consequence can be good or bad. A bad consequence might be, if you are naughty, you get told off. Yeah, that's a consequence. Getting told off is a consequence of being naughty. Getting a treat is a consequence of being good. Yeah, it's not always a bad thing. So I'm going to give you a little clue for this question, and I want you to look on line 24, because in that line there is a good thing and a bad thing. You need a good thing that happened as a result of the Great Fire of London, and a bad thing that happened as a result of the Great Fire of London. Okay? Number 7 then, this one might be a bit unfamiliar to you. You might not be sure about this one, so I'm going to go through it with you. It says, what is the rhyming pattern of this poem? And then it says circle one. So we've got A, B, A, C, A-A-B-B, A-B-A-B, and A-B-C-D. So basically, we need to find our rhyming words. So let's have a look at this first paragraph. So Thomas Farrier, baker to the king, left his oven burning with the firewood nearby. The embers muttered, the little flames took wing, and sang to the bigger flames, come with us and fly. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to let me write on here. No, I don't think it is. So that first line then is A, yeah? And king rhymes with wing. So this third line would also be A. So up here this would be A. I'll write it on for you so you can see it. 1 second. So up here this would be A. And then because this one ends in king and this one ends in wing, and king and wing rhyme, this third one would be A as well. Okay? Now this one ends in nearby, which rhymes with fly. And because it's our second line, that one would be B. So that's our rhyming pattern. A, B, A, B. Okay? And then your last question says, do you think the description of the fire in this poem is effective? Explain your answer. So the answer to this one isn't going to be in the text, is it? This one says, do you think? So have another read through it. Do you think it was effective? So effective means good, basically. Is it a good description of the fire? Did it help you to imagine what that fire was like? Okay, have a think and just make sure you explain your answer. So remember to try and include some evidence from the text to support your answer, because it's a 2-mark question, isn't it? Okay, so that's your reading for today. If you are in the monkey book today, then your next text, so in this book, your next text is page 14. Okay, so let's have a look at yours under the Visualiser for today. Okay, 1 second, let me just zoom it out a little bit. Okay, so it's called The Tear Thief, yours today. So it says, late one evening, the tear thief crept into town. The tear thief was invisible and carried a silvery waterproof sack on her back. Only if you happened to look into a puddle as she was passing could you see what the tear thief looked like, because a puddle was the only thing that showed her reflection. The tear thief had short, spiky white hair and big grey eyes. She wore a handkerchief dress and silk slippers that made no sound as she walked. Now I've highlighted the word reflection in here, and the word reflection means when something is reflected, so you can see yourself. So when you look in a mirror, you can see your reflection, okay? Or in water, you can see a reflection. Okay, so your questions then for today, you've got number 1, what does the word crept mean? So it says here, late one evening, the tear thief crept into town. So think about how she is walking. Is she stomping? Is she doing it really loud? Have a think about what the word crept means and creeping. Number 2, why do you think the tear thief's sack was waterproof? So you have a think. So it says she carried a silvery waterproof sack, but it's a why do you think question. So the answer's not going to be in there. So you're going to have to use what you know about the tear thief and then think, why would a sack need to be waterproof? What is the only way to see the tear thief? Is number 3. I'm sure you can find the answer to this one. So it's going to be around here in the middle. Have a look in the middle section. And then the last one, is the tear thief big or small? How can you tell? Now for this one, I think the hint for this question is in the last line. Okay, so have a think, have another read of that last line here. And then think, is she big or small? How do you know? Okay, that's your reading work for today. Your word power work then is page 20 today, and it's called That Looks Familiar. Okay, so it says you probably already know lots of words in other European languages, even if you've never learnt them. Why might this be? Now, you've got a German sentence and you've got to try and work out what it means. Now, I know it might look daunting and you might think, oh my goodness, I've got no idea what that means, but you can figure it out. So it says, Freundlicher Hund ran in den Garten. Excuse my pronunciation. So it says underneath, psst, another word for dog is hound. So Freundlicher sounds a bit like friendly, doesn't it? Hund sounds like hound. Ran in den Garten. So I think this says the friendly hound ran in the garden. So you can write that on those lines. Then it says, try matching these foreign sentences up with the correct English sentence. So you've got to look for some clues. Let me show you under the Visualiser. So here, one second. So here, you've got, I'd look at the English, because you can read the English, use the English, and then go to this side. So she's honest and intelligent. So I can see here, onesto. That sounds a bit like honest. And intelligente. That sounds like intelligent. So they're going to match up. Look for clues for what you already know. Okay, down here then it says, we have cognate prefixes and suffixes too. Can you match these suffixes from other languages to their English suffix? So again, look for clues. So Asian and Ashion, they look similar. There's only one letter different. Okay, so they're going to match up. And then it says, which languages do you think these words come from? And then have a think. And you've got some flag keys at the bottom so that you know which language they are. Okay? So just try your best on all of your literacy work for today. Remember, that is all you can do. And don't forget to send us some pictures. I look forward to seeing what you've done today. See you tomorrow.